Alrighty, what's up, bro? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Alrighty. Yeah, I threw this up here. I'm just gonna wait on it a little bit. I thought about it because I've just had my thoughts going really well, and I've been seeing a lot of people's thoughts on this. Did you see this circulating around? This Teoki guy posted a screenshot of somebody did a side-by-side comparison of a proverbial mediocre dad bod, so to speak, compared to his transformation in which he got much leaner, much better. And in the survey, it was the women saying that the previous one was unattractive. And I have to be a little quiet here because I'm going to start, I'm going for a walk and I don't want to say anything too crazy in the neighborhood. So let me first find the actual post. And so I just wanted to go over it because it's certainly like a fascinating study, basically, in what's actually going on with all this stuff. Alrighty, so I just posted it to our space here. So, but before we begin discussing that, what have you been up to, dude?
I haven't been on Twitter for a long time. I think I've been shadow banned again. I don't know. That always happens.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird to investigate because, I do much better on Twitter than I do on YouTube. And at first I thought maybe that's just because my YouTube, it's interesting if you're just like not a brain rot idiot because, I go on for basically an hour at a time and, there's no stimulating graphics and all of that. I gotta teach myself to get good at that. But, uh, but I've noticed that other people who have like big pages on Twitter, like 20,000 or so, their YouTube performs like significantly worse too. So at least there's consolation in that. How that relates to what you're saying is, it's tricky because, I suppose that it does like ban you, especially if you're kind of operating a little bit more anonymously. And, if you're posting like a ton of that stuff, but you don't really use like the big mean words a lot. So I don't know what they're up to with you.
Yeah, I think when when I pay again for the what is it, the blue check,
Premium.
yeah, it comes back to normal for about like 3 days, and then it starts to go down again. I'm guessing I'm on somebody's radar or something. That's not me.
Huh. I don't know how do you pay it monthly? I paid it like the year in advance.
Yeah, I paid it monthly because I didn't want to take the risk of like, let's say I get banned, I just lose all that shit for nothing.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't going to originally, but then I needed more justification than, well, I'll get more boosts in replies. And then I saw that I had to buy the highest tier to write articles. And I actually think that's a really cool feature that I wish that they would expand upon more because, a lot of people use like Substack, but asking people to take the step of going to another app or clicking on another link is like just totally takes away like 75% of your audience every time. So I got it for the article feature, but I paid up front. So perhaps that's why that's that difference. So
I mean, when you get to a limit of growth and you're on somebody's shit list, you can't really grow anymore. And it's not even like the problem isn't even how do you explain getting more people. It's sometimes you even get shadow banned from your own subscribers and shit.
right. Yeah, I noticed that I've been kind of stuck in this like high 400s number of followers for a while. So, and it goes up and down every day. So that's also why I mean, maybe it's just a cope, but that's also why I believe that a lot of pages are organic because, yeah, oh, it's quick coping, bro, just post good content. I think I post, some people might think what I post is like not good, but certainly I post in a way that the people who do think it's good will follow me and will engage with me. So, uh, that it speaks to how there's a lot of people saying the same things that we both do all day, but because their pages are like inorganically bigger, they just get all of the engagement, like a lot of people do converge on the same ideas.
Yeah, you're right on that.
Yeah. So I'm recording this, so I'll start the conversation at the topic so that people who watch it later or listen to it later can sort of don't have a reason to click away. But so this post was circulating, and essentially it's the girls actually like the dad bod argument. And I think there's a multitude of reasons that we could go through as to why women say this and then do another thing. But I think the major reason is women rely too heavily on their feelings to inform their thoughts and decision-making processes. So because when they look at those two guys and they have two different feelings that that solicit when they look at those two guys, they rely on which feeling is like the better feeling. So then the question becomes, okay, well, what are they feeling when they look at these two characters? So the dad bod look is sort of like an optimization for them between attractive to the point of it does stimulate them somewhat and not so attractive though that the guy can easily leave in a heartbeat. And the reason why the latter is particularly important to them is not just because of the threat of their feelings being hurt, but the fact that it's the threat of their feelings being hurt prompts a feeling in them that is antithetical to one of their other attraction vectors, which is safety. Women rely on the feeling of being safe to inform them that this guy is attractive, because if they feel safe, they must be safe. And if they are safe, that's one of the sort of boxes to check off for men. But the problem is conflating the actual safety with a male that isn't just safe because he's bigger, stronger, and can like protect them physically, but a man who is safe insofar as he clearly demonstrates his ability to handle adversity to, build his way up, a man who is occupying positions of power or pursuing positions of power, and because power is safety. And so that's that major attraction vector, but they conflate that with feeling safe in terms of their ego. Let me get Schiller in here. They conflate that with feeling safe in terms of their ego and feeling safe in terms of the risk of their feelings being hurt, neutralized. And when they look at a character like that, they say, well, hang on, the jacked guy is necessarily going to hurt my feelings more because he can ditch me fairly easily. So that's sort of the start of it all. And there's a lot more to it, but I'll give you guys a moment to say what you have to say about this. For Chiller, if you missed it, there's a reply on
Oh yeah, I knew
this.
what you guys were talking about with all the woman cope. It's like, oh well, I need a guy that can like eat burgers and stuff with me. I think, some of it's very purely like cope, but I think like
Yeah.
I don't know, some of it's just I do think some women have that preference because they feel intimidated by the guy. It's kind of like, same with the guy being like a model. I don't know, it just shows a lot of determination, and a lot of people it just makes them, I feel like, insecure about themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Particularly the cope you're alluding to is this sort of cope that they think it makes them conscious of their superego uh, mandate to like behave in terms of eating and working out well and all of that. So their cope is they don't want to be conscious of that. And he's going to make them conscious of that. And that would mean that they're going to have to give up a little bit of their precious nom noms and sippy feelsy goodsy juice. And so they cope by saying, well, the perfect medium is this optimized body. I got to get off of such a busy street. The perfect medium is this optimized body type whereby he's attractive enough that it stimulates them a little bit, but not so attractive or so disciplined that it forces them to be better. They don't want to have to be better. They don't want to have to grow. It's kind of like eternal juvenilism.
Mhm.
Like most people really eternally are children their whole lives, whereby they don't want to subject themselves to any slight discomfort, any slight discipline, any slight authority.
And
And go ahead.
Oh, so I was also, yeah, I agree with what you're saying. And what's interesting, I feel like honestly, okay, on one thing that's I feel like there's more flattering lighting on the left picture. Honestly, I feel like a better comparison would be both the before and after in the same lighting, because I don't know, like I could kind of see it's like maybe in the face he looks like a little more emaciated, but I also agree with what you're saying. It's like you have to do some self-reflection if he can do this. But I also, disagree with people saying it's like he was like fat in the first picture. He's what, probably like 15% body fat in the before?
Yeah, that's a good point too. That certainly picture, at least, that's probably what made it viral, is that it actually is a little bit more gray on the left side. If it was just like the straight up actual like dad beer gut look, and then it was that, and then women were still coping, then you'd be like, all right, like, nobody, it wouldn't go as viral. Or maybe it would because it would
Mm.
just be so ridiculous.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right that the fact that the guy on the left still is certainly at least one or two tiers above mediocre proves that, or made it a little bit nebulous as to what's really going on here. So, uh, but the main, in case you didn't hear before, we got some extra people here. The main point is that, or the main reason they fuck this up, or say one thing and do another, is they conflate. They rely on their feelings to inform their decision making with this. Specifically, they need the man to spark a feeling of safety within them. But the problem is they conflate the safety that they need, the physical safety, the sort of life trajectory safety,
Mm.
with ego safety. So because the guy on the right is a higher risk of hurting their feelings, which, fair, that you don't want to kind of like the equivalent of, you look at somebody, they kind of exhibit like hoe behavior. You're going to want to not date them out of safety, out of risk mitigation. But the part that really is sort of pathological is that it threatens their ego in terms of not just him being able to leave them and thus hurting their feelings, but that like really strikes a nerve at their feeling of power. You know, they're not used to the feeling that they can, that they don't have the power in the relationship, specifically sexually. A guy like that, because he has access to that anytime, anywhere, they
Mm.
don't really have any power over him. And so power is safety as well. So that just further exacerbates them being like, I don't like that. And what's more is that it's interesting that it's always the use of their feelings in that moment. So this sort of default state is in any given moment is defaulting to safety being the primary attraction vector for them. But you guys know, I mean, people say it best, look at what they do, not at what they say. Because what they do changes it in that once they're exposed to a guy like that, and a guy like that actually sort of prompts the triggers, prompts the responses, then that feeling of safety quickly vanishes, and they're much more interested in about how they're like aroused in the moment. And thus you have the quintessential dilemma of they're all of a sudden aroused and turned on in a different way that produces, the guy actually getting laid. And so, and then like afterwards, they just pretend that doesn't happen because now they're back to their default state of safety feelings. So they have no concept of like observing like the pattern because they're only relying on their feelings in the current moment. So
Yeah, I mean, I would agree, and I see all this like stuff. It's like, oh, it looks like he's more masculine because he's a bit fat. It's like he's a better lover. He can play with his kids or some bullshit like that. It's like, what the hell are they talking about? It's some pseudo-scientific, thing that makes no sense. It's just like source, trust me, bro.
yeah,
But I also think, men you should get your body how you like it rather than doesn't matter how if guys or girls like you should be happy and healthy with your own body rather like and not care what people online think.
yeah, and that's so true. The part about like, oh, well, he looks like he'll play with his kids more. It's like they really have this distorted image of what it means to have discipline, authority over oneself. It's another conflation whereby they think that like compassion and kindness and fatherliness is not like that is mutually exclusive with like discipline, orderliness, and that's just not true. The best fathers are the ones who are disciplined and
Yeah.
orderly, and this is evident in how kids react to you. If you guys ever have any work experience with kids, dude, I tell you, I would be the one who would say, I think I've told this story on Spaces before. I'd say, "Hey, knock it off," or "Get down," or "What did I say?" That sort of thing. And what that does with them is children are so new to the world that they just want answers, and not having answers and not having any pattern to rely on or any predictability freaks them out. So if you're the guy who consistently enforces the rules and consistently has a set of standards that eventually they can detect a pattern with, it totally like relaxes them. They trust you, they feel safe around you, and it makes it very easy to uh, keep things under control, because once they see that you follow through with your warnings and your threats to sit them out or whatever, they're like, all right, guys does what he's going to say, or does what he says he's going to do. And so what then happens is, because they trust you and because they understand that, they sort of like let their guard down, and then they become like the kids that like they think you're so cool, they think you're hilarious, they think you're funny, they always want to play the games with you, uh you know they're always like ready quickly and that sort of thing. And so all that's to say there's this weird like thing people have where they can't wrap their minds around authority being like authority and discipline being the truth and being the actual kind thing to do. And one more thing, because you said a second point, you're so right about that too. Like women constantly saying one thing and doing another is one of the reasons why you just like can't take them seriously and just do what you want. And also, it's just like the quintessence of masculinity is to answer to yourself, not to women, or answer to God, or answer to
Mm.
your set of standards for yourself. So if your standard is I want to get fucking jacked because I want to keep my promises to myself, I want to get big, I want to make my tests bigger. I value the work, I value the discipline in and of itself, and my body is just a reflection of how I am consistently keeping my promises to myself and living with my values. That's the actual like um to your point, that's what's actually valuable about the gym and all that stuff, not how much pussy it gets you.
Yeah, I agree. And you mentioned with the kids, I feel like the leadership, I feel like, it goes as far as like to people in general, like leadership, people like someone that can say, hey, like, like it's easy to talk to someone that like has like, hey, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, and they do X, Y, and Z. And like, if you're a friend group, like someone who knows what they want, it's just, I feel like as humans, we just like respect that. And I find it like easier to get along with guys that, know what they want, that are more kind of leaders. It's like it's because there's some people that are so passive in life. Like with some of my friends, like well they're not like all super passive, but it's just like I have to be the one to organize stuff. Be like, hey, we're going there, here, here, and here. We're going this at this time, and you kind of just more have to have learned this. Like tell people, not
Yeah,
like in like a mean, rude way, but just even especially with women. That's the number one thing probably with women. You have to be like, hey, we're going here.
yeah,
Not in like a rude, bossy way, but just because like they don't really know what they want. You have to kind of tell them, and then they like that, and like because I feel like it's in the woman's like brain to be more so whether they want to admit they're not like submissive to a man,
yeah. I mean that natural uh,
and they find it attractive too.
yeah, that natural dichotomy between the two in behavior is one of you are the leader and they are the subordinate. And like you said, it's not in a jerk way. It's not in the
I think
connotative
it's
way.
very actually respectful. So it's like you're not wasting your time.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. And because women don't like it's very overwhelming for them to make those decisions and that sort of thing because they're not prepared for the implications. They're not prepared for how they're going to feel afterwards. Most of the time, they don't understand how to predict how they're going to feel about whatever decision outcome.
Hmm.
And your responsibility is to evaluate absent any sort of feelings with it. And I know that's kind of like boomer gay, facts don't care about your feelings coded.
Yeah.
These fake masculinity types that are always like whipping up those stupid quips. But on some level, there is a truth to that in that your primary, like you operate without feelings much more, or you're much more capable of doing so than they are.
Hmm.
And so your responsibility is to, and realistically, like a lot of guys get terrified of the reaction they'll get, and that's why they're afraid to, make the decision about dinner or whatever. But like the thing is, like there's nothing to be afraid of. Like people can get mad at you and whatever. There's a natural inclination to be afraid of that because, pre-civilization, like you didn't like anybody, you could just delete them. And
Yeah.
but now that we're in civilization, there's nothing to be afraid of with that. And in fact, even if we were pre-civilization, people getting mad at you, most of them wouldn't be able to do anything. But anyway, because they're weak little bitches
Yeah.
anyway. So to your point, it is you just can't take them with their feelings seriously. At least the like fickle teas, take their
Yeah.
feelings
Yeah. Like the
seriously.
small stuff.
Yeah, like about dumb shit, like chores or whatever, like it actually doesn't fucking matter whether or not they're
Yeah.
gonna
You
get
just have
mad
to
about it.
smile and nod and let them talk, and and then it's like it's like
Yeah.
yeah, okay. But what were you gonna say, Warton?
Yeah, I'm gonna go full psychology, sociology right now. the reason why women can't actually make choices like to eat and stupid crap like that is because of how they're wired. Like a man is very direct, you know, like
Yeah.
you go to let's say you go to a store, you're like, oh, I'm going to buy some chips. You go get the chips and then you come back home. Women tend to wander. So like the problem is that their brain is all scatterbrained, I would say, or the way that it works is they think about like a million different things, and at the end of the day, they can't ever make choices because of so many options, you know? They become, paralyzed. They can't make,
Yeah.
yeah,
They
they're never actually going to make the choice. That's why women like men that make choices, because
Mhm.
at the end of the day, the man actually makes the choice and they can finally eat, you know? That's
yeah,
simple.
they're better at thinking in breadth, we're better at thinking in depth. And they in a way they also don't even really care what the outcome is. They just care that they know what the outcome is.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I feel like, you're saying earlier, I feel like the only wrong way to like go about like, oh, what do you want to eat? Just picking somewhere is like not making a decision, is saying, oh, well, what do you want to eat? I don't know. Like you just have to throw things out and it's like, I just be confident in your answer and they'll say yes. And like, and I don't know, just I've noticed women really like that. And,
And
um, yeah.
what's funny about that is like guys don't realize like you it kind of just gives you license to like pick whatever the fuck you want. You know, like
Exactly. And then it's like, oh, we could, and it's like, I don't know, so many guys are they just bend over backwards too much for women.
yeah,
Sad to
and
see.
then it's like a shit test, right? Let's say you pick a place you want to go and she's like, "Oh, well, I don't like there." You know, and then it's like a shit test, right? To see if you like stumble or tremble or you're just like, "We're going there unless you have another choice or unless you come up with a suggestion, I'm making the suggestion." And then usually they kind of like giggle and like think that's like funny and then they pout, like pretend to pout and then it's over, you know?
Yeah, well, I usually think of like two places and it's like, oh, they don't want that one's like, okay, then let's go here. And they're like, usually like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's like three places. It's like, okay, well, then we're going here. And it's like, if they're like, oh, well, it's like, no, we're going. It's like, yeah. So they usually relent, but I don't know. It's weird how it's. Oh, I was also. This is, I guess, kind of this on topic, but like, what do you think about like those weird, like, super, like, toxic, like those alpha male dudes that are like the fresh and fit guys, like Myron Gaines, like guys like him who are just so overly focused on masculinity.
Well, I'll say that I do like those guys, and I more so like them because they're talking about you know which group and you know
Hmm.
that group's influence in American politics. You know those Brazilians, you know, infiltrating our
Yeah, yeah,
government,
yeah. The
obviously.
ones we can't speak of, the
Yeah,
one group.
so I like them, but you're absolutely right. And first of all, that content isn't like I'm sure they've helped a lot of like idiots because especially stuff with like finance advice, like you just have
Oh
to be an
yeah.
idiot to like get. I shouldn't say that too strongly because at some point someone's going to ask me for financial advice, but all that's to really say is just like that stuff's like turbo basic. So is there stuff really like deep? The answer is no.
Yeah.
And you know like at first okay you get viral by like inviting on like stupid idiots.
Yeah, they cater to the lowest denomination of women, and
Yeah.
it's like, these are the bottom like 20% of like
Yeah.
OnlyFans
They
whores.
invite like Miami whores on and then they shit on them. And it's like fine. It's funny. We all love to see a stupid bitch get told what a
Yeah.
stupid bitch she is. But like you do that for 3-4 years. It's like you got to develop a little bit more. That's why it's just a side note. That's why you'll never see me post like insert currently trending TikTok viral or TikTok audio, picture of me shirtless, which is really just a tacit advertisement to women still, and then post. Like, you'll never see me do that. Like, that's one of the reasons why I started Marchese Methods, because a lot of this stuff is in the mind and it's behavioral. So you'll never see me do that lowest common denominator fitness version of that. So that's just a
Hmm.
side note. But just to answer your question, finally, these, so they do that. And the key thing is that it's not really so much their fault or anything for doing that. I mean, it is kind of lowest, but the fact that that's still popular elucidates that most men really don't want an answer. They just want to sort of vicariously through them, get off on them shitting on women, and it's sort of like a way for them to ameliorate their anger at women by watching them get shit on, and that's sort of satisfying to them. But that ultimately doesn't help. It's
Yeah,
good to
it's
see.
the self-defeating. Like the incel, it's like, oh, I'm not 6 foot, I'm not X, Y, and Z. I'm never gonna. It's like I don't know. Like I guess are we really on the topic of incel? I guess this kind of ties into the topic, but
Yeah.
yeah, don't you? I don't know. I just can't stand the defeatist incel attitude. I know, like it just kind of becomes this self-pitying, like sad, pathetic, like oh, woe is me type things.
Well, fundamentally, what they don't realize is a large part of their problem is taking women seriously. So, for example, with that 6 foot thing, the 6 foot
Yeah,
thing doesn't mean that they actually think precisely 6 foot. They do that on the dating apps because the dating apps provides the number for them and prompts them to filter for it. But
yeah.
there's a couple things that this 6 foot phenomenon actually means. The first is that women are eternal sheep. So if something trends amongst women and other women say it, they just bah along with them, right? So one sheep bahs, they all bah, and they don't even know why the fuck they're doing it. They just say the thing that they think everyone else is saying. So that's firstly. Secondly, they really don't do a good job of judging space in the abstract like that. I guarantee if you put a bunch of men in front of them at varying heights, they're gonna like pretty severely underestimate or excuse me, whatever the word is, um, underestimate
Misjudge.
and misjudge, yeah, their heights. And so then you have, well, where did this come from? Because certainly they're all buying, but it must have come from somewhere. And what it comes from is when they say, I want a guy that's 6 feet, there's two things that means. Firstly, the innate communication for their evolutionary circuitry is I want to be around a man who makes me feel small and makes me feel safe. And bigness, big males do that. Bigness, we're always eternally associating that with physical capability and the ability to protect and the ability to perform and do all these sorts of things. And just like how men, we like to feel big and strong and that sort of thing. They like to feel small and not weak, but, sort of womanly,
Taken
right?
care of,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that's what that really means. Then there's a second layer because it caught on the specifically the 6 foot thing, not just because the buying, but because women have this eternal ego problem. And there's the ego problem in that if they sort of say, "Oh, I only go for guys who are 6 feet and taller," they're sort of tacitly trying to convince themselves and convince everyone around them, "Well, I'm a hot girl, and the way you
Yeah,
can
it's
tell
more
I'm
about themselves, like
yeah,
many things with women, rather than because I don't in real life, I don't really think women care about height unless you're probably like 5 foot even, like then you're fucked. But like
yeah,
if you're even like an average sized guy or even shorter than average, they really don't care.
yeah,
It's just seems weird. It's like, am I getting trolled? Because all I hear is like online. But then like my personal experience, even on apps, I've not really ever had that problem. Like I just feel like it's more of how you carry yourself, and I feel like that's just an easy thing, like the like to latch onto. It's
yeah,
a and it's safe. It's like safe, edgy. I guess not really edgy. I don't know what the word is, but you know what I mean. Like you can't say like oh, I really want like a white guy. Like that would be like people would say I think that's like offensive or whatnot. But
yeah, yeah, yeah.
the height thing is not like I guess it's guys also freak out too much. So like oh I can't. They say themselves so short because they think they have this misinformed idea.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, to your point, it is about them and about how they feel. And they just say that to tacitly communicate that they're the hot girl. Because if they say, oh, well, I only go for that guy. Well, what is that guy? That guy is the whatever top 10% hottest guy, so to speak, or whatever. So essentially they're saying, well, I'm so hot that I reject all of these guys and I only make myself available to hot guys because I can, because I have that capability because I'm heckin' hot and I'm a bad fucking bitch. And that just speaks to an insecurity problem amongst them and an ego problem. And they also have this conflationary thing whereby, and this is evident in the dating apps part, that incel page, he posts
Hmm.
like the distribution of what filters they set. and they set them like ridiculously high too, like 6'4", 6'5", 6'6", and all that really tells you is that their peanut rationale with that is that like attraction linearly increases with height. The more height you have, then it's necessarily the more attractive you are, and they think it increases exactly linearly. So they think they can just increase the height, and that increases the attraction. It's kind of like money. Like
Hmm.
I think I saw like a Dan Bilzerian interview like a billion years ago, and one thing he said was, there's no difference between like a millionaire and a 10 billion millionaire, whatever, or a millionaire and a billionaire. That's a huge difference. But he said there's no difference. And what he meant was that like you get past a certain point and like nothing even matters. Even me at my point,
Yeah.
I certainly wouldn't say I'm rich. I would say I'm like not even like middle class, like, and we have everything covered in such a way that like anything now just feels like extra to the point,
Yeah.
and to the point of like nothing's going to change that much. Even if I made $1 million tomorrow, I'm not really going to feel the need to do anything with it other than put it into things to make more money, like it's a fucking video game. So
Yeah, yeah. It's like that's what I've understood. Like people, there's so many people online that are so obsessed with like showing off these possessions and stuff. It's like, once you get to a certain point of like finances, it's like it doesn't matter. Like what's another like a nice car? It's just going to get you more like attention. I don't know. It's not going to make you happy. It's like health. I think it's like, the number one thing, being healthy, especially
yeah,
after like my back surgery. It's like that's health is like, it sounds so cliche, but health is wealth. When you feel good, physically, I think that's, the best thing.
yeah, and that ties perfectly back to the main subject, which is that firstly, I'll say what people who talk about an injury that was like debilitating, it
Hmm.
seems, I think what I'm understanding from people who talk about that is the you take your body's fluidity and capability for granted, and
Yes.
then when you have a back injury such that you can't walk or something, the way that like strips you of literally your entire livelihood, your power, it makes you feel impotent. It makes you feel like a burden. You're like totally uh, subordinate to and powerless to those around you and everything around you, and you can't make anything happen yourself. So people with an injury develop that understanding of like that autonomy, that free will, that if you're secular, it's just general free will. If you're religious, you understand that was given to us by God. That is like amongst the top 5 greatest gifts of life given to you. And to your point, that the power of that is what, like, you can use it. That in and of itself makes you happy, but you will can also use it to make you happy. And relating to power, just in case anybody tunes in, they want to go back and forth with like the women thing. I think women also say this bit about they don't like the muscular guy because they have a combination of propaganda and the sort of psychosocial unspoken communication and dynamics that men are the powerful one amongst the two. And they sort of have this actually kind of rightfully linear relationship understanding with the more on the masculine you are, the more to the right, let's say, on the masculine spectrum, the more sort of people associate that with power, and the more it activates amongst women that resentment for male power, because they've always been resentful of that because, um, in truth, they really can't actually wield power over men. The men that they can wield power over aren't even really men in the first place.
Yeah, women say that they have a lot of rules for like normal people. The 6 foot, whatever, like you said, Marchese.
Yeah.
But the truth is, if they like you, they will throw all those things out the window.
Exactly.
If you have charisma, you can be 5'5", 5'2", whatever. Be like, hey, what's up? They will immediately want to be with you.
Yeah, unless they have
Yep.
like they're severely like terminally online. To your point, Chiller, you said earlier, I only ever had a problem with that once. One time on a dating app, a woman immediately asked me how tall I am. So I was just like, "Yep, 5'7," and just like immediate unmatch. And I'm just like, "You're just like a retard. Like, why would like?" I get that if some men have really been down in the dumps, that would actually like hurt their feelings significantly. But
But it's just
uh,
like, who really cares? You're married now, so it's like,
yeah,
there's so many women out there who aren't gonna, like, think of all the women that didn't, swipe, like, unmatch and
yeah,
all that. These guys just see that one woman and they think, oh no, I'm not 6'5", I'm fucked.
yeah,
I like to see it as a positive because if they just say, "Oh, I'm not interested because you're not 6 feet tall," I'm like, "That's great. You just made it so I don't lose any time with you."
Yep.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and like the women who live like that in that little world, they're just fucking miserable because at the end of the day, like you're not going to be happy without sort of solving the, I guess for us you'd call it solving the woman question, but you universally you'd call it solving the relationship question. You're just not going to be happy without. I mean, you are in that like if you're a Chad Alpha and you're doing things and all that, but ultimately like your life ends with that in the picture. And so what that means is like you're not like happy without that. And for people who are like really worried about that, specifically those types of women, they're just like eternally miserable anyway, and like in this sort of constant state of hysteria. And I'll say too, to your point, you know, my wife actually, interestingly, so we met on Tinder, and you know, what was so funny was that she saw my pictures and she almost like she almost swiped left because I had like the Chad
Mhm.
physique and everything. And she had a friend nearby who was like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "Oh, well, I'm gonna swipe left because I don't know, I can't like pull a guy like that." And the woman was like, "Well, what difference does it make? It's literally an app. It's not existent. You can just swipe right, and then if he doesn't swipe right on you, you never even have to know." And she was like, "Oh yeah, that's true." And then one of the things she said, so, and to your point about the Myron guys and all of that, I listened to that stuff, like not those guys specifically, but a lot of the pickup stuff way too much, to the point of I was always laying on the alpha and the male stuff too thick. So I figured like after like years of doing that and just really not much success with that, I figured, what if I just like tailor it back? What if I just communicate my actual experience? And so what I put in my profile, that was one of the reasons my wife swiped right on me, was I put, like misjudged or something like that. Like, and according to every alpha theory and everything, that's like, oh, you're freaking self-deprecating and that's not alpha and that's not confident and but I was like, let me just give it a try, see if there's actually any humanity to these people. And just instantly, like much more success. And like so many of them were just straight up like, well, I was just worried because you have fuckboy pictures and all of that. And I'm like, I was like, I tailored that back. I cut out pictures of me like at parties and everything. And you still think I'm a fuckboy. I mean, I guess that's a compliment, but it kind of sucks. So all that's to say, and I'm 5'7", my wife's 5'4", I think. And it's like, I don't feel like emasculated in any way, not being 6 foot. People try to bust my chops. People bust my chops online and all of that. But I think the key thing there, you guys kind of hinted at it. You can still have charisma and everything. The key thing is that height gives you a big presence, but if you're strong, if you're confident, if you're psychosocially savvy, you'll have a big presence psychologically amongst the group. And that's evident in how many men arise to power and sort of have this tremendous aura despite being under 6 feet. So,
Yeah, I just thought it was weird how much it's focused on online. I feel like, the real world, but I don't know. There are other things, like can't really be measured as much. So that's an easy thing to throw out. But, yeah, I forgot what else I was going to say. I think I had something, but I might remember it later.
yeah, sorry, I yap a little too long. I do the bro thing and just I keep going, but it's good. We have Gibson back. If he, I invited him to speak, and we have father of five. That's Doidle Tatesimmer's, however you say that, husband. But she said she's listening on his account. Maybe she can give us some insight. I know she gets a little anxious being the being the one girl in the boys' treehouse here, but You're welcome to speak. I invited both of you guys to speak. We got Mike Antonio here. He could probably speak to his experience being like jacked because he's bigger and more jacked than I am, and how what kind of reaction it gets out of women. While I look at my notes here.
Yeah, I know you're definitely right about that. Like what you said about when you met your wife. She was misjudged you thinking that you were a fuckboy. I did that all the damn time, or even like in like college or high school when I was just in dating back then. Girls would always be like, "Oh, why are you going for someone like me?
Yeah,
I thought you would be someone prettier or someone that's on your level." And I'm like, "Yeah, so or you're probably just want to hit it and quit it type. You're not looking for a relationship, or it's that a lot of that is very, very true. That's for sure."
yeah, they think you're too attractive for them, so it frightens them that they'll get their feelings hurt or that you're taking advantage of that to get something out of them, usually in the form of sex. Uh, you know.
Did you see that one photo? I think it was about a day or two ago, and I guess they did a poll here on Twitter, and they were comparing the before to an after guy.
Yep.
And this guy, yeah, they supposedly the woman said they liked the before picture
Yeah. That's exactly
versus
why I prompted this space, and I have that in the comments of this space. I have that tweet quoted. It's at like 40 million views. 40 million views now. Thousands of comments. Women still saying that they like the guy on the left better. I think there's another layer to this, in that because I heard some of them say that. Well, I could tell you from experience. So when I was a lifeguard at day camps, right? It was so awesome, dude. Sun all day. That was like the natural red pill about the sunlight stuff before it even became popular for me. I could just sort of feel it. I could feel that it made my test through the roof. I could feel that I was way happier. And I didn't need sunscreen after like the first week because I would just get tan. But that similarly provided an issue because I was the one guy that looked like that, of course, right? You would think lifeguards are in good shape, but still not really. And so I think women also say they don't like the guy that looks like that because they resent that guy just generally gets more attention than them.
more
Yeah.
attention.
And not
Exactly.
even like dating attention or more attention from women than from men. But I think just more attention overall. It sort of strips them of, you know, women think they sort of rule the realm of aesthetics and beauty, but it's like the male, like not to sound gay, but like when men really sculpt themselves and make themselves something, that's kind of like why all like the statue of David, that sort of thing, the male perfected form is much more inspiring, grabs much more attention from both men and women, and it sort of strips them of their like psychosocial power, not just their power within the relationship dynamic, but it strips them of their psychosocial power. It almost like takes them down in the ranks amongst like the tribe. And I noticed that like they just like really fucking lose their minds at that. So they'll just say they don't like that as a way to either punish it or as a way to, as just a vague association with, well, that makes me mad, so I don't like it.
Yeah, and like one thing that I've noticed, I mean, I'm not trying to sound like a whore myself. Well, I did have those whore days, but
Yeah.
women in general, they hate when the attention's taken off of them. They always want to be the prettier
Yeah.
one because it's attention and validation. So, obviously I know a difference when I'm off season compared to when I'm dieting or I don't want to say diet, but lifestyle, like cutting up, ripping up. And, I notice a difference of,
Yeah.
attraction or not attraction, attention. And some of my exes, I know would just be extremely jealous of it. Like even if a dude came up, like, "Damn, dude, what's your workout?"
Yeah.
Like it wasn't even another girl, like, but like, yeah, they get extremely. jealous, and I'd be like, that was a guy who's just what? I'm not gay, first of all. So what the hell do you have to worry about? Like, it was just that's what it is. So I think what it is in that demonstration, it's the girls don't want to admit it, but they rather get the guy on the right, but um, but they have that belief that the guy on the right is going to dominate them.
Yeah,
So they
yeah,
want the guy on the left because the guy on the left doesn't have that attention and validation like the guy on the
yeah.
right does, and then they can remain the prettier one.
Yeah, it's about power. It strips them of power by stripping attention from them. And I think a key thing is it strips them of their sexual power in that a guy like that, she can't say no to. Like you can, you know how women will, Mike, I think you probably have experienced this. Like you probably dated a woman who at some point, like whether, like not to be crass, but you know,
Oh, yeah.
when you have sex or something, and at some point they say something like I fucking hate you, and or you know, I
Oh, yeah.
swore I wasn't going to do it, you know, and it's like, why do they say that? It's because they resent how much power that attraction holds over them. They're used to being the ones in power in the attraction dynamic, and that's why they pick the guy on the left because they can sort of resist, if not even resist, just they can control it because they don't care for it at all. But the guy on the right, they can't resist, and so it's about that power, and it strips them of that power as well. So they just totally feel um, like helpless to their
Yeah.
attraction to that guy on the right, and they feel that more than we do. You know, this is why people say things like women, you know, want to do that more than we do. I got to censor myself a little here. I'm out in the neighborhood. They want to do that more than we do. Like we have a stronger drive, like a bio imperative drive to do that, but they actually want it more than we do in that once that feeling is activated in them, they feel it much more strongly than we do. And because they have no discipline over their feelings, we talked about earlier about how they rely on their feelings to inform every last decision because they have no discipline over those feelings and they feel that attraction that strongly, they're just totally subordinate to it and they'll just do anything to bang that guy. Um, so
Yeah, and it's like one of that guy on the right, he could walk in with some mid-looking chick or maybe even a hot chick, but just because that guy's in shape, all the dudes will be like looking at that guy like, damn, dude, you look
yeah,
good and all that. And, oh yeah, you're just with the hot chick. Yeah, we don't care about that. I want to know how you got those biceps,
yeah,
your chest, that's kind of what I was, hitting at as well. Like they just can't take that attention and validation away from them. They must be, and then they're plus, like, it's one of those things I think they're trying to do a mindset trick on guys because, they're trying to say, us guys, we aim to please, we aim to better ourselves and all that. But, they're
mhm.
trying to say, see, this is what women like, so don't get in shape because that keeps us women always the pretty ones and all
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
They're trying to like send
Yeah,
that.
it keeps them in the structure of power. It keeps them in the power position, occupying the seat of power, which is safety, right? To have power is to have safety because you can dictate what goes, and presumably you're going to dictate things in such a way that it's not a danger to you or your interests, or at least as far as you think they aren't. So that's the safety layer whereby they conflate having power with the safety attraction vector and the feeling of that with actual attraction. And thus they proceed to conclude that the guy on the left is the quote unquote more attractive one. And there was also another thought I had because I'm sure you guys know who Rollo Tomasi is, right? The one of the OGs,
Yeah.
the Rational Male book. One of the things I remember from that book is one of the reasons they resent pickup artists in games so much is that betas can masquerade as alphas. You know, with that stuff, they can sort of seduce women into believing that they're alpha rather than beta. And that's why you have shit tests and everything like that. And I think a similar thing happens here deep. There's so many reasons why women say all this stuff. It's kind of crazy the world of chaos women live in. But I think a part of this too is that, you know, like a man can get big and strong and physiqued, and presumably that does take a character of discipline, toughness, and everything. But there are a lot of those fitness types that are still kind of eternally like betas, and that's evident in like these pretty boy
Right.
types that have their like, you know, gay coffee routines in the morning, and they post it on TikTok, and they're just sort of like the effeminate like skincare routines. But if, you know, side note, if any of you guys do a skincare routine, it's based in Cool and Chad and Epic. If you do it, because you're my friends. But these types of characters, so it's almost like they also want to eliminate the risk of a guy looking like that, but still being a beta, because it'll still um, trick them again, and then they'll hate it and they'll resent it.
Yeah, I remember my ex-wife, before I married her, when we were like dating, like at the very first couple of dates, I remember she had just came out and straight up told me, I hate how you just get all the attention wherever we go to. Like, be in a restaurant, she was, I'm like used to it. I'm just like, I didn't notice that this had turned, that had
Yes.
turned. She was like, noticing all that, and I didn't even have a clue about it.
Yes.
And, I remember she told me that one time, and I was going to say, that's that jealousy that a lot of, I think it's like a Western mindset that a lot of the women here in the West say, because that's bull crap. That's like the biggest cap that polling
Yeah.
that, was just
Yeah.
came out a day or two ago.
Yeah, well, I mean, like the Western idea of relationships, and this is actually common. This is really between both men and women, in that they think it's all about power too much. And while, and that really falsely presupposes that there's no such thing as a man or a woman that's not going to play some sort of game with you. Everyone's playing games because everyone's terrified, and everyone's terrified because every combination of being insecure, or they had a bad experience or something, they're really just kind of juvenile, eternally, you know, playing this lizard brain game of maximizing feelsy goodsies and minimizing feelsy badsies. So to your point, everyone everywhere is just living in this chaotic world of trying to uh, assert and ascertain psychosocial power. And because in relationship dynamics, that's when people are at their most vulnerable, it's the scariest. And because it's so scary, and because it has such a propensity for people to get their feelings hurt, or for people to wield massive power over somebody else, they're sort of eternally preoccupied with it. And somebody mentioned the fresh and fit guys earlier. One of the things that sort of gives you a clue, I don't want to like be gay and call them insecure or something, but because I do like them, but one of the things is they think that you should date a girl and then just like, you know, monogamous on her end and non-monogamous on your end. And their reasoning is, well, you need to be able to sort of verify to yourself that you're capable of pulling other women so that you could keep your current woman, because otherwise your skills or your alphaness will wither. And if it withers too far, she's going to wind up not attracted to you and then divorce you or something like that. And it's kind of like one of the things that a lot of these guys have to learn is that like part of being alpha or whatever is trusting yourself and trusting your standards and living up to your standards. You know that you'll never be a bitch. You'll never subordinate yourself. And you can tell by how, if she starts trying to like train you and all that, it's going to produce the sensation in you that you feel like you're getting bitched. And then you're going to have to adjust accordingly. And so what that really means is, why would you still, the need for that still for them comes from a place of they need to they don't actually feel powerful. And you know, and even like this cope stuff of like, well, it's biology, men just want to, you know, plant their seed everywhere. And it's like, or even, and like, yeah, that's a bio imperative, but the idea that like, oh, you need that much sex or something, it's like, just have sex with the same person every day. You know, not to,
Yeah.
not to be gross or anything, but let's just say like, that's kind of our operative philosophy. And it's like, if just that is the need, then just one person, what's the difference? What does many women throughout the week versus one woman throughout the week? What's the difference? It's having sex with multiple women once a day, once a week or something, let's say each, versus having sex with the same woman every day. What exactly does one give you
Right.
versus the other? So all that's to say, to your point, that people are eternally operating in this realm of, power and, terror of getting their feelings hurt.
Right. Yeah. And I think because, it's not necessarily that I agree with him nor
Yeah.
disagree with him, but I think, what his kind of whole point was is like, hey, remember when you were that 18-year-old and yeah, girls, you might have been a good looking guy, but girls would never take you seriously because you didn't have no money in the bank. You didn't have no accomplishments, achievements. So now that you got there, you're making a 6-figure income. You're a millionaire. Yeah, it took 15 years till you got to that point. Now that you're mid-30s now. Now enjoy the fruits and labor.
Yeah.
I've never, I'm with my wife. I've never, and I'm a millionaire too. And obviously, I don't have no clout on the internet. I don't care for that because I'm
Right.
married. But I never thought once about cheating on my wife. Never cheated on my wife at all. I don't have no interest, especially with all this STD crap going on nowadays. It's like, why even take the risk? Because this hookup culture. I mean, I have a brother who him and me are very opposite, with mindset and all that. When I found out that he had AIDS or HIV, whatever that uncurable one, and then I was like, what were you doing? They go, just putting my dick in anything I saw I walked. I'm like, oh, you disgusting fuck. He's like, I was being careful too, and I was wearing protection, and still ended up getting it. So that scared the shit out of me. Like, damn.
Yeah.
So why even take the risk and all that? But I think that's what he was kind of saying. Yeah, I don't agree with it 100%, but I don't disagree
Yeah,
with it
I'm the same way.
100%.
Like, counter
But
signaling any of that will like always be gay. You're just always kind of like a gay faggot for counter signaling them. You
oh,
come
I think you
across
kind
that
of cut out
content
there.
organically. Oh, I cut out.
Okay, now you're good. I can hear you now.
Hang on, am I back? Am I back?
You're,
Yeah.
yeah, you're back now.
I went home to drop my jacket off real quick because I got kind of hot, and then I forgot that it connects me to the Wi-Fi, and then it disconnects me. So I had to just turn off the Wi-Fi real quick. But I was gonna say, counter signaling them, like, well, to your point, counter signaling them will always be kind of like gay. So you just kind of like it's like, if the problems that arise because of fresh and fit are I'd rather have those problems than the problems of like the opposite of them. So, but on some level, you don't come across that content organically because you're happy with your circumstances. If you're doing just fine with like relationships and stuff, like your algorithm would never put them in front of you. And you probably wouldn't even be around people who talk about that stuff unless you're like just into like the deep dynamics of everything like us. So most of the people who come across that
Right.
stuff come across it organically because they're kind of looking for it. And you're faced with like two choices when you come across that stuff. Either leverage it to figure something out to fix everything, or commiserate with everyone else and sort of excuse yourself from getting better and just constantly circle jerking about how, women suck or whatever, and that's the experience. And that caters to or satiates or pacifies the lizard brain instinct to optimize energy and to, not subject yourself to discomfort and to, sort of live eternally in your sort of comfortable little world. because comfortable and upset is much less risky to most people in how the basics of the brain than uncomfortable and like comfortable and upset versus possibly happy, but also possibly in danger from taking risk and from using energy to be better.
Yeah, spot on. I nailed it. That's definitely true. I watch, some of their content every now and then. And then I'll see a lot of their, what is the snippets they hear on, Twitter.
Yeah,
I do like the mindset that they give to men, like, hey, make yourself better.
yeah,
But some of the stuff, I can agree that they kind of go a little bit overboard with.
yeah, yeah. So isn't it interesting how it's all interrelated? I like how our spaces go here because we're all 5,000 IQ and be able to connect every idea to every other idea. That's actually how a high IQ conversation goes most of the time. So I haven't heard from War Torn in a while. So if you had some thoughts you wrote down along the way, uh, I know Doyle, I invited you to speak. Yeah, I'm gonna make you, dude. We gotta hear your word on it. And Gibson, you're probably busy. That's why you haven't spoken. But War Torn, do you have anything?
No, I'm good for now.
Yeah, alrighty. Let me check my other notes here. We could kind of transition into just chilling for a while. I think I've exhausted most of my ideas. Uh, just to sort of conclude that topic is that you really, it really is they just rely on their feelings to inform their decisions and their thoughts. And if one of those feelings is feeling safe to inform them that they're attracted to somebody, they conflate feeling safe because they are safe with feeling safe because their egos or their overall emotions are safe. And their emotions are unsafe or potentially unsafe with a guy who's a Chad Alpha because he can easily leave them. He wields sexual power over them in that they can't resist him. He wields sexual power over women in that he can leave whenever he wants, and she doesn't really have any leverage on him. And they resent that overall image of male power, and they associate it linearly with the more masculine, the more something is exclusively masculine, like bigger muscles, the more powerful it is because of that association between masculinity and power. And they also overall resent the male, that them getting that attention more than them threatens their standing in the tribe. It threatens their ego. It threatens their sense of self. If they're insecure and if they're sort of eternally juvenile, they rely on attention to inform them that they're safe and that they have standing in the tribe. And so when a man pulls that from them, it threatens their standing in the tribe. And so I guess we could talk about, what's the prescription? I think, Mike, you're married. I'm married. So we're like proverbially successful in the realm. So I would say the way that I sort of solved, and not that I was being autistic and trying to like problem solve all the time with this, but the way that I solved that question is like, I know it sounds gay to say not all women are like that, but to some degree, like, you have to accept that we talked about earlier, you're not going to be happy without, like, in the end, you have to solve the woman question. It's just your imperative. If you want to make it not gay, you could say it's God's imperative upon you. And so you have to solve that problem. And really, 80% of it goes away when you stop looking for women that are online, stop looking for women that go to clubs, stop looking for women that drink are trashy. Like 80% of that time that goes away and you're just left with women who are at least like vaguely functional and they're not totally retarded and juvenile. And even more than that, not to like simp for my wife, but my wife is like more than that. She actually is mature. She actually is capable. She thinks through things. She doesn't rely exclusively on the faculties of her feelings to inform how she thinks, feels, and does things. So those women are out there, and it's tricky because it's like, well, how do you find them? Where do you find them? Well, Firstly, I would say my biggest recommendation amongst most men is they got to stop being goons, or having the goon dilemma, I call it, whereby they can only see women. It's like they put glasses on. They can only see women if those women have their tits out and their ass out. And it's just like that right there is the biggest red flag for them to be fucking retarded and annoying anyway. So you have to like defeat your goon brain and your goon dilemma. And in a similar fashion, those men rely on their feelings to inform them whether or not they're attracted to a woman. So they rely on that porn goon circuitry spike upon seeing a woman to inform them that she's hot. But there are a ton of hot girls that don't dress like that, that do dress modestly, that are pleasant, that aren't forever advertising their sexuality. And so you just have to like remove the goon brain and like just be conscious of how, you know, there are women that don't just like go to the stupid club to get fucked. So that's sort of my prescription there.
Yeah, I want to add something.
Yeah.
You know how like we keep talking about this, but there's also something else that women do that nobody actually talks about almost ever. They always want to seem like they're nice and dainty and
Yes.
kind and
Yes.
everything. Yeah.
Yes.
Like, yeah, so they're gonna be like, oh yeah, I like the guy that's not as attractive, or that's like this or like that. So they're all nice because they don't want to seem like the one that's like rude or mean.
Yeah.
But behind
Yeah.
closed doors, they will be absolutely horrible. They will
Yeah.
say the most horrible, disgusting things about people. And it's
Yeah.
crazy how nobody ever talks about this.
Yeah. 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 So the I'm glad you brought that up, because that was another layer to this, in that they say the guy on the left versus the guy on the right because they don't want to come off shallow. They're sort of the culture has sort of proselytized them into thinking that they can't be shallow, which is true. They shouldn't be shallow, but you also can't lie about it, because that's equally malevolent. And so, yeah, to your point, they feel this pressure to appear as like little shallow as possible, as little horny as possible, as you know. So they just sort of pick whatever they think will make them appear less so. And the guy who's not all that attractive, it necessarily follows, well, they can't be shallow because he's not all that attractive. So she must be saying that she's attracted to men for more than just their appearance and all of that. And you know, people are attracted to each other for more than appearance, but it's just appearance is like 80% of it. Uh, you know, appearance is health too. A lot of people don't understand what makes somebody beautiful most of the time or sexy is health, because of that direct relationship between health and fertility and viability. If you signal fertility and viability, you are sexy. Uh, so in a way, it's not shallow, you know. It is what it is. We just are biological beings, and every cell in your body can, you know, has this sixth sense to tell you precisely when somebody's appearance tells you how fertile they are, what their hormone levels are, and thus, you know, respond by, you know, prompting attraction chemicals, whatever, in your brain. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. It's the eternal. I'm not like that amongst them.
Yeah, and you want to know how I know that's bullshit too with the photo thing. I remember this is when I was more heavily into bodybuilding, about a decade ago, and you know how they call it the I know you know much easier because you're into fitness, but there's an off season and then there's the pre-contest season.
Hmm.
And the off season, we're bulking up. Obviously, you're losing the definition
Yeah.
sometimes. You're just not as chiseled. I remember one time, my, one of my girlfriends like poked me in my stomach one time, and obviously my stomach wasn't as chiseled. Now I didn't have no spare flat tire hanging out. No, I never let myself get out of shape.
Yeah.
But she'd be like, "Oh, you poked my stomach. She's like, you're losing your stomach muscles."
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, but when I'm in the gym and I'm in the contest mode, who are you dressing up for? Why are you dressing up like that? Why are you getting in shape? Who are you trying to
Yeah,
impress?
exactly.
That's what I'm saying. It's all bullcrap, what they say sometimes. So it's just, like I said, I think they're just trying to send a message. I don't, how should I put this into words? They just want to just keep men weak minded.
Yeah, absolutely,
And
absolutely. Yep. I know exactly what you're talking about. It's a shit test. It's a shit test. They want to also see, if they can train you. If they can train you by sort of holding the dog biscuit up to you, that is their pussy. If they can hold that up to you, they can train you with it. So they try to see how much they can train you. And if they can train you too easily, that informs them that you're not actually like a Chad Alpha. You can't get other girls and all of that. Yeah, absolutely. There's something so innate to that. I felt that as early as like 14 amongst women. I think I tweeted the other day that one of my earliest red pills intuitively, because a lot of this stuff is behavioral and it's wired into us, right? So you could feel it happening in real time. It's not just like podcasts that tell you. I like knew when a woman was trying to like train me to be her bitch, and it would piss me off. Like I hated that so much. So I was always on the lookout for that. So you're absolutely right in that they train men to be weak, and both to shit test you, and part of that too is like they train you to be a bitch, they train you to do all that, and then they'll go cheat on you because there's this layer to the optimization instinct whereby people want to optimize their relationships in that they want to have a boyfriend or a girlfriend without having to be a boyfriend or a girlfriend themselves. And that's how you have like that's one of the major problems amongst people now too is women just that's the simp problem. That's the simp training problem. They'll have a simp who fulfills all of the you know checks all the boxes of a boyfriend, but they'll get to have their cake and eat it too by going and banging a bunch of other guys. And similarly, men do the same thing. They want a woman who is that's why women freak out about the prospect of being like a trad wife or whatever, is because they sort of innately sense that it's men trying to basically say they want to have their cake and eat it too. And that's where I disagree with a lot of those red pill types. It's kind of like an excuse to also be a degenerate and a coon brain. Really those guys, like, they're just eternally trying to make their peepees feel good. On some level, that's just kind of like simple, juvenile and emasculine to be that enslaved by your sexuality. Part of being a man too is to to have power and dominance. You also have to have power and dominance over yourself. And this was also one of the early things I understood, and a lot of guys I've trained understand, like, sort of innately, that they want to be a man, and specifically a man in that they answer to themselves. They don't answer to their lizard brain. They don't answer to their dick. They don't answer to their indulgent impulses. They don't answer to anything other than themselves. And there's something really deeply masculine about that I encourage every man to explore, to work on, is that self-mastery. Because if you control yourself, nobody else can control you, especially not women.
that's what, oh, good thing you said that. I was just going to say that a little earlier. Like, think about it like this. Like, they'll marry the guy on the left, but they'll go cheat on you on
Yeah,
the guy on the
exactly.
right. Because the guy on the right, fulfills a fantasy, a thrill for them, but they know more than likely they can't overpower the guy on the right with his mindset. They can't treat
Yeah.
him like a bitch because they know that, oh man, there's other girls after
Yep.
him. So that's kind of this whole trickery that's kind of going on with that post. And that's why I like this, like when you brought up Fresh and Fit, that's why I like his message of, hey, get in shape. You don't have to be like a
Yep.
bodybuilder or a
Yeah.
fitness guy. Just, you could do some cycling and all that, but it just trains our mind because we already know how tough it is to get into shape if you were out of shape at one point and then
Yeah.
maintain it. That it takes over great mindset power and all that. So I mean, I don't even think I've ever met, someone like that's like a bodybuilder, a fitness
Hmm.
person that's in a little bit above decent shape or in super great shape that has a bitch mindset. I've
Yeah.
not met one. They like, you could just tell like, oh, you know, he knows it. She knows their shit and all that. And the same thing with the mindset with a woman.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And it's so funny you mentioned that too. This relates to the broader fitness realm in that there are like characters like you, like me, some of our guys in here. We're all like at that stage. And if any of us in here are not at that stage or at that look or at that physique, whether you've been there sometime or you're just not a bitch intuitively, you understand that like there's to get to that level requires something of you. And so, but there's an interesting broader theme amongst fitness, and this is the one that I shit on all the time. There are these mediocre types who go to the gym, but are putting on the act that they go to the gym. So they show up, I always say it, 3 times a week, 20 minutes at a time, 800 milligrams of caffeine, you know, arm day every day, you know, these types. And they're eternally mediocre
Yeah.
looking. They're not big. You know, after the first 3 months, they get pissed off that they didn't gain 30 pounds. So they start talking about, oh, trend, bro. Um, it, those types are not what you're talking about, though. You're talking about the serious types who are really in it. And the key thing is that earlier Chiller mentioned, you know, don't just get a body for the sake of pleasing women. Every gym bro who gets to a serious level does not do it for women's approval. Because even if you just think about that, you know, sort of, I think ontologically is the word, or if you just
Yeah.
follow that reasoning, you get in shape to get girls. Okay, well, what happens when you get girls? Mission accomplished. So you stop trying to get in shape. So, but the guys who take it seriously, they don't have a bitch mindset, to your point, because they all value fitness and value respect for themselves and value that self-control and that masculinity and that discipline in and of itself, absent its rewarding consequences. This is a key concept in psychology too, in that one of my mentors, one of his phrases to me was, the best way to build confidence is to keep your promises to yourself. And if your promise to yourself, realistically, everyone deep in their minds has a promise to themselves every day to go to the gym. And 99% of people every day do not keep that promise to themselves. But the guys who do triumph, and then they never look back because they know what it's like to not keep their promises to themselves compared to when they do keep their promises to themselves. And so what you have is these guys don't have a bitch mindset, like you said, because they've sort of transcended all of that. They've transcended the biology of humanity, and they operate on a much more spiritual, much more evolved, sophisticated level. There are still a ton of idiots. You know, a lot of these types that, like, just by some miracle are in shape and do actually look like a serious physique, but are kind of just like fucking gay and insufferable and retarded, you know, posing all the time and stuff like that and
Right.
making a big show of it. That those, you know, that's the exception, not the rule. You know, everyone else is a much more serious, evolved, sophisticated person, and that's the broader theme of being a human, is that you can transcend your most basic animal instincts. You can exercise your free will. Going to the gym is free will. There's nothing bioevolutionarily compelling you to do so. Maybe vaguely to get more pussy or whatever, or to be healthy, but realistically, you don't have to look like anything to do either of those things. So,
Oh, I think we lost you. Oh, there we go.
I'm back. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I
All
can
right.
hear you now.
That last part probably cut out, but it's whatever. Uh-oh, I see Doidled
Yeah.
accepted the speaker invite. Go ahead, Mike.
I don't, I don't think I see him. I just see you, me, War Torn, and,
Yeah,
Father of
Father of
Five.
Five.
Is that Doidle?
Father of Five is Doidled's husband. She said she's listening on his account.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
I am listening on my husband's account. Hi, every.
Whoa, there she is.
Wow.
Hi.
What's going on?
Not much. I'm listening to your space. It's great stuff.
Good, good to hear.
Very.
Yeah, we finally got you. I remember the first space I did. You were like, "Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt, but you're good."
Oh, thank you.
Did you have any thoughts you wanted to say?
Everything you guys are saying is really spot on. And it's hard for me as a woman. I'm a woman, but I'm not like other women in the way. And I know that sounds very, oh, a pick
Yeah,
me.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
But I'm not. I've always been this way my whole life because I think more than I feel.
yeah,
So I look at these situations, I look at these things that other women do, and I think you all talking about this shit testing and things like that. Women do that. And that's not how I do because my relationship, I've been married for 15 years.
yeah,
So, we're at a different stage. All of that, anything that we may have done on that level has, long since passed
yeah.
because we're
Absolutely.
sick. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but I don't know. Sorry, I
It's
lost my.
no, you're good. It's juvenile, and most people are eternally juvenile. And to your point, like you're an example of like the women who don't operate that way. It's few and far between because of how strong the feelings wiring is in most women. I think it is like it's probably heavily correlated with IQ. You could just any a high IQ person just like doesn't operate in this like gay retarded way. So it follows that high IQ women don't really operate that way and can sort of have the neuroplasticity to be able to resolve this stuff and sort of mature. And it also is kind of like a meme whereby like it's women who are in their 20s and stuff, but most women really don't outgrow this stuff until they're like 50 or something. So there's something to be said for how like finally most, you got it all your life, but there's also women who like finally never fucking get it until they're like fucking 50, 60 and they're desperately trying to tell the young women to like chill out, but they're so, underdeveloped in that they don't even know how to give that good advice.
Yeah, I agree. But also, there's a large percentage of women who never grow up, or
Yeah.
they 60 and still be like, I don't know, Demi Moore, trying to chase youth and beauty and be sexy, and not really seeming to learn anything about what it is to be a fully formed person. So, and a lot of women, a thing that women do to other women is there's not a lot. Not most women will not give you good
Yeah.
advice because they do want other women to have the things that they did
Right.
not have. And that's very common. I see it all the time. I see other women. I have 5 children and my oldest is a daughter and she's getting older. And I tell her, I had to learn a lot of this the hard way. The whole feminist thing. Oh, get a career, get a job, do this, do that, be a girl boss.
Yeah.
It was never for me. But I tell my do what you want to do. You want to have children young. You want to find a good man. You want to form a family because that's the path to
Yeah.
happiness. And most women are the opposite. They will not say that. They'll say, oh, go get a career. And then they're bitter harpies in their 30s. And, they're telling these 20-year-olds to do what they did, but they're not happy. So I don't know. You know what I mean? Just, it's counterintuitive, but I really believe it's because they don't want other women to have the things that they themselves didn't have.
Yeah, it's that psychology of people try to uh, sort of ameliorate their feelings of whatever, like inadequacy or something like that, or you know, they're discontent with not having anything. There's the psychology of, well, perhaps I'll feel better if nobody else has that, so I'm going to tacitly influence them to self-sabotage. So yeah, absolutely. That's a good point. Mike, I know I kind of interrupted you earlier, so if you had something from earlier you wanted to say, go ahead.
Um, what was that? I forgot now.
Oh, okay.
I was hearing a lot of, I think I lost my train of
Oh, that's
thought.
okay.
Can't remember.
Uh, yeah, to your point, Doidle, when you talked about the women say, I'll be a girl boss and all that stuff. There's a broader theme to that nobody's talking about, which seems to be kind of like what we talked about earlier with the power. They resent this sort of psychosocial dynamic whereby men have this power in every circumstance that, even if it's not an actual on paper power, just interactively amongst a group of people, if it's one man amongst a bunch of women, like the man's going to be the leader. And they're going to and a lot of them, the ones that have an ego problem and feel insecure and all that, which is most of them anyway, really, really have a problem with that. So they try to take it back by sort of like competing with men by, becoming like men. They figure, well, if that's how you have power, then I'm going to be like a man. So they have this broader theme of, oh, go be a girl boss and all of that, so that you don't rely on a man, because reliance is a submission of your power. Go do this, that, the other thing, because if you can do it, then you'll necessarily ascertain the same power that men have. And there's this, women have this anathema for shame overall. They want to live life with completely absent shame, and that's how you have all this stuff coming together, especially with the body stuff. Just eternally trying to ameliorate shame, but it's like you're always going to feel shame for not being who you want to be, genuinely. So in the gym example, nobody, you'll never not feel shame about that, even if you make every excuse under the sun, unless and until you solve it, So that just goes to show that women kind of live in this eternal hysteria whereby they're trying to resolve all these feelings and all of these psychology, ways, how bullies operate, how, they want to compete with everybody else. They're jealous of everybody else, particularly men. So they give that advice to each other to sort of play this game of, we're in this together. We're going to defeat the big jerk meanie men. And that way we're going to have the power now. But real power lies in not needing to do that. And real power lies in eyes on the prize. That's kind of like my slogan, eyes on the prize, finding your fulfillment. Really true power lies in having your eyes on the prize and doing what it takes to get it fucking done. Absent imagery, absent how you come off to other people, absent whether or not people think you're cool or a bad fucking bitch who don't give a fucking fuck. So sorry I keep going on for a long time, by the way. I know you guys make your points much more succinct. Maybe Marchese actually has a low IQ moment because I can't seem to put my words together succinctly.
You're good. You're good.
That destruction thing of your competition reminds me of what crabs do when one of them tries to escape, the rest try to bring it back, so they all fell together.
Wait, say again?
The destroying of the competition that women do reminds me of what crabs do when one of them tries to escape, from the pot.
Oh, yeah. And they
They
all pull them
all,
down?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, dude, absolutely. That's such a good analogy for it. It reminds me of actually too, there was that study that said half of all misogynistic tweets online are tweeted by women. And it's funny it's funny to say women are so retarded that even women hate women, right? That's kind of like the meme, but it speaks to, I think, a broader theme with slut shaming too. This is actually interesting, is that it's sort of women really are always bringing each other down. Specifically, the fascinating one is slut shaming, in that men evolved slut shaming to, sort of stop women from being promiscuous so that they don't fuck the alpha, they fuck the beta. They sort of make it like a value thing, they moral faggot. But women do it too, because when do women call each other sluts? It's based on what they wear, how they advertise themselves. So if a woman has her tits out and then the other women call her a whore or a slut, what does that do? That prevents her from keeping her tits out. And what that does is remove the attention from the men. Now the men aren't paying as much attention to her. She was the hottest girl, but they slut shamed her into not advertising or not dressing provocatively, so that more attention can now go to the rest of them, because they kind of sometimes have this view of men that we're like dummy oafs, like programmable oaf dogs. So that dynamic right there is them sabotaging each other, but also viewing men as these, you know, uh, what's the word, like slave, like pets, like pets to be trained. And they view it
With,
as, they view that stuff as the responsibility of the woman, because they don't see men as capable of controlling themselves or having the responsibility to, or the discernment to be able to tell that girl's a whore, or to be able to tell, okay, I still need to evaluate all the other girls here. Or, they just kind of see men as these like sex slaves to tits and ass. And on some level it is reasonable, because even some Chad alphas are still kind of like led by the nose to pussy all the time.
Yeah, well, you were saying that women bring each other down. Like, even though I know there's just gender war going on here, um, but have you ever had a breakup with a girl, and whether you broke up with her or she broke up with you? Because, of course, not all women here, obviously, but um, mainly the girl are very vocal about their breakup or
Yeah.
divorce. Did you ever have their girlfriends come right to you to pat you on the back and try to sleep with you?
Uh, in some way, actually. So this is kind of funny. This is like I had a high school girlfriend that like I fought with, all the time. She was like totally disrespectful and everything. But I had this total like I want Marchese one moment wherein it was junior year, and like in January, February, her and I broke up, whatever. So she was playing all those games, right? Of, um, firstly, their first step is to tell all the other girls that you're off limits, and they all have to follow that rule. And then, to your point, there are some who break that rule, a good number. There was one specifically that she was always jealous of my interactions with. So, like, I literally watched her one time, like, I was talking to that girl, her speed up to go walk with that girl and go talk to her to take her away from me. But the funniest Marchese one moment, to your point, is that it was towards the end of the year. And I was just like, junior year Marchese was like, dude, I don't give a fuck. Like, I'm not really asking any of these stupid bitches to prom. I don't really care. I'll just go. Fuck it, and I'm not giving anybody the satisfaction. But one of her like closest friends, like wasn't getting asked and didn't have a date. So she asked me, like not even me ask her, she asked me. So I was like, yeah, sure, of course. I just had to fucking live in that like ego vindication, that satisfaction. So that's my relationship to that. But honestly, the couple of like serious breakups I've had, that hasn't really happened. It always just kind of becomes like who won, afterwards.
Right. Well, this is probably about 10 years ago when my sister was going through a
Hmm.
divorce, and I used to tell her, hey, shut up. Just tell your close family.
Yeah.
Don't tell your
Yeah.
friends. Sure enough, as she's going through the divorce process, she finds out not only her best friend goes for her husband, goes sleeps with him,
Uh-huh.
and then one of her coworker friends, how he knew that soon to be ex-husband through a dinner party that they had. I was talking with my sister, and I was just like, listen, you were divorced, that I think you did something wrong to that man. That was a good guy, and with you being vocal about it, those girls are going to go try and get him to wipe them up
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
And that's actually what kind of happened with my, when I divorced my first wife. I had it, her two of her friends that came right on over. I was like, all right, I know what these bitches are doing, but I was kind of pissed off, and I still did it just to rub it in my ex-wife's friend. But that's just, us guys, when we're going through that process or breakup, we might let one close friend know, maybe our parents, that's it, but we're very quiet. But the reason why I'm saying that is it's like these women sometimes kind of display this thing that men are the enemy when it's actually with themselves.
Yeah,
Like they hate each other more.
yeah. They resent that they really can't control men, so they say that like men are the enemy, but they also see men as a resource, and so they don't really give a fuck. The sisterhood über alles is a thing, but at the same time, it's unter alles as soon as an opportunity presents itself to extract the male resource. And in that case, I think what's interesting there is women do have this thing whereby they need they're always so skittish about like first evaluating a man. So it always helps. The PUA guys call this social proof, where there's proof that you like have some sort of semblance of, you know, attention from women or how to handle women. And so when it's a nice guy or whatever, a guy like that, that's a good guy, but he's proven in that he was married to her. They knew the ins and outs of that marriage. It sort of makes it, it made the decision for them to want to bang him, right? There's like an evaluation process. So seeing that social proof with him and then the two of them getting divorced sort of greenlit it. There was like a deep decision made long ago beforehand amongst them. And this reminds me of, because you said earlier how, because there's a social proof element. So you said that with your wife, she kind of finds it frustrating how many like eyeballs you get. I think, not to take away from the way you look, but I think part of it too, like you're much bigger than I am, like to the point of like you look like you are a bodybuilder. I'm not actually a full bodybuilder. I'm just kind of like a gym bro that's, pretty big, the biggest guy that comes in
Yeah,
between
you still
like
get
3 and
hits.
4 and that type of thing. So, I don't get eyes in that way. So that's part. The reason why I say that is because without my wife, like if I do get eyes, they're really like subtle about it, or they're sneaky about it, or they're sort of covertly doing it. But my wife said that she noticed that when we were first starting to date, women would just like ogle at me, and I noticed it too. Like, and I noticed there was a difference, and I said to her, I was like, you know, I mean, I like that you sort of laugh this off and everything, and that you think because of that, like that's one of the things you admire about me, and I appreciate that you withstood that, got used to the discomfort of that. But I said, in truth, I don't get those. Like, I noticed the difference too, and I think it's because women see you with me. If women see you with another woman, that just sort of like it's like it's like a woman being with you sort of like enters in the international woman database that you're like, okay, you're not a creep, you're not violent or whatever. So when they see that, it just sort of
Right.
like proves it to them that at the very least they can let their guard down a little bit with you. Um, so
Have you ever been out, like, have you ever just been out where you're by yourself and you ever get approached by a woman even though you're wearing your wedding ring?
no, I haven't had that happen yet.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's happened a couple times to me. Like maybe I'll be getting lunch at the local sports restaurant or something
Yeah,
and I'm writing my estimates and all that. But yeah, so that's what I was kind of like saying. Like I think today's women, again, not all women, they have a mindset that men are against them when we're really not. It's actually women against each other
yeah,
the
yeah.
most, if
It,
any.
it, yeah, that's like an ego thing where they figure if they could steal the hot, the hot married guy, then they must be really hot, that they're able to seduce a man who committed his life to another woman. And, they also, it's that social proof again. Um, yeah, I haven't had that happen yet. Uh, I think it's because I also like, I'm not really all that publicly, around. I just like go to the gym basically. I work entirely on Marchese methods from home, all my studies, all my classwork and everything. So really, like, I show up to the gym and that's it. And there's some like girls in there sometimes. Sometimes I'd get like a vague look, but they always kind of do it so innocuously that you can't always tell that it's like an invitation. Uh, so yeah,
Right.
the wedding ring seems to it hasn't made a difference either which way.
Um, just something that I noticed through the years of my marriage. It's like the woman knows, but I guess it triggers their mindset, like gives them a thrill, like you were saying, like, oh, I could get with a married man. He could still pull it
Yeah,
off. But I'm around, a lot of homeowners for my, cause I run a construction business. So I'm dealing with a lot of homeowners. Hey, come change my water heater. So even some of these homeowners, these single women, like they'll just, they call us men pedos. Like, oh, men are pedos and all that stuff.
yeah,
But then again, if I go up and slap some random girl's ass in public, right?
yeah,
I'm already expecting she's gonna turn around and slap me.
yeah,
Right? Doesn't matter if I'm ugly or hot. Maybe she not might slap you if you're hot, but I'm still expecting that.
yeah.
But they just go up to you and just touch you. They just grab you.
Yeah, yeah,
You know what I mean? Like like that's kind of the equivalent of a man like staring at a girl's tits or slapping her ass.
yeah.
They just go up and do it and expect nothing to happen to them. I mean, obviously, I'm gonna
Yeah, I did.
slap a
I
girl
did
and all
used
that,
to
but
have that, and it would actually like piss me off, like because I'd be like, "What the fuck makes you?" Like I would sound like a woman. I'd be like, What makes you think you're entitled to like touch me like that?" Like,
oh, you like it? That's what they'll say.
yeah, they don't take it
Yeah,
seriously. Because they think they're entitled to that. Like ironically, on some level, they're the ones who have a problem with thinking they're entitled to sex and sort of like that. Yeah, I. Yeah, that was like way back in college. Women would do that to me, especially during Halloween. I wore like a Chippendale outfit one time, and every woman I walked past was just like feeling me up. It was actually like pissing me off. I was like, "Is this what it's actually like?" It would piss me off that they like I wouldn't feel violated. It would just, in a way, it would feel like they are taking something from you. Like the classical psychoanalytic stuff of like castration anxiety. Castration anxiety doesn't manifest as an actual fear that somebody will grab your balls and like rip them off. But it's a fear of your masculinity being stripped from you. And the fact that they sort of thought that they like had that power over me was the power to just sort of touch me like as if I belonged to them. And I know that sounds so like female coded. It's kind of funny to hear myself say that, but the way that they thought they just had the power to do that like felt emasculating. It felt like they thought I belonged to them. Like they just
right.
so in a way that I definitely fucking didn't. So all that's to say, to your point, yeah, it's kind of like every accusation is a confession.
Yeah, no, you're definitely right. We're spot on that explanation. And yeah, just like you said, the women take each other down. I do truly do believe that it's not the men that are the enemies. They're like in combat with each other, and they do give each other bad advice. That's why I don't tell. There's three rules that I have for my wife. Obviously, no guy friends. It's a no brainer. No social media whatsoever. And the
Yeah,
number one important one is no women that are single friends. No
yeah,
single woman friends.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and like one of the things I appreciate about my wife is that she naturally is like intuitively red pilled on like drinking and stuff like that. So it's like a natural proclivity for her too to not associate with people like that.
Oh, I think you cut off there again.
Did I? Or am I good? Oh,
Oh,
wait.
okay.
Yeah.
No, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Yeah, I'm just thinking for a moment too. We've been going on pretty good here. Um, so the good thoughts here. I would say all in all, the stuff warrants. It's good to discuss this stuff and get it out in the air for the people who listen who aren't too sure. Sort of need want help or just want to express their own ideas too, and develop the prescription too. You know, like it is like everything online is like shitting about women and stuff, but at the same time, like you know, there is hope. You can solve the problem. You know, I said earlier, just chill on quit being a goon and just like, look for women who aren't sticking their tits out all the time, and you'll be just fine. Uh, I think in terms, a lot of guys get neurotic about like game and stuff. I think just like, I honestly, I try to use my own ideas, but Rollo Tomasi did say it best one time in that, uh, you know, alpha is as alpha does, and what that means is that, like, if you're on your own path and answering to yourself, above everyone else and just before God, you're not going to have any issues. You're going to naturally come off as alpha. Actually, one of the OG pickup guys, his name was, the brand was Real Social Dynamics, and his name was RSD Max. His original PUA plan was called The Natural, and his basic operative telos was that realistically, this stuff is all naturally embedded in us, and you don't need to run game if your behavior naturally reflects game. So that's sort of one of the prescriptions there. I'd say another prescription is that every man needs to like have a starting point of not needing women in the first place, not needing to get pussy. And a lot of men might think they don't need girls or they don't need to get pussy. They just say that because they know that's the line. They really still kind of do. And that's evident in their endless pursuit of pussy, in that for a multitude of reasons. First one is just basic instinct, but specifically coon brain, I want to make my pee-pee feel good instinct. But the secondary instinct is this desperate need for female approval. And the highest form of female approval is sexual. That's by definition female approval. And so this need for sexual approval from women, even if you get it, you'll still feel empty. You'll still feel lost. You'll still not feel like a man. You'll still be dissatisfied. So the way that I resolved that is I thought about it, and thought about it and said, if you need like sex and female approval to prove you're a man, if you think that being a man is getting pussy, that's actually by definition subordinating yourself to women. You are subordinating your sense of self, your sense of confidence and all of that to the arbitration of women. You are, standing before them, and they are the judges on the bench, literally like above you, like looking down on you like a judge does, and then slamming the hammer as to whether or not you're approved by the International Female Court or if you're disproved. And that's by definition the least masculine thing you could do. Masculinity and confidence is self-approval. And a lot of people don't understand that you can think of yourself outside of yourself, in that you have a relationship to yourself. You have a way you treat yourself, and you have an opinion of yourself. The same way you treat other people, you have an opinion of other people, and I forgot the third one already. I'm getting close to my bedtime. And so all that's to say, like those are the two key operative teloses that will yield you not just success with women, but really, solving that problem in such a way that it's kind of like done, that chapter's closed. You never have to worry about it ever again. So I think that will probably be my closing statement.
That book that you said, you read, I think you said it was by The Rational Male, right?
Yes.
By Rollo Tomasi?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna check that out.
It's a book.
Yep, they do have it here.
It's his OG blog too, therationalmale.com. What he did, the book is just a collection of his like top articles, but this was like at least 6 years ago that I read it, which means that it was probably 2 years before that. So it would take some digging, but I think the book's probably still available on Amazon for like $10. There's actually 3 or 4 of them. There's the first one, the second one, I think the undertitle is Preventative Medicine, and then the third one was something else. I read all of them.
Yeah, I see it here now on Amazon. Yeah, they still got it.
Yeah.
Amazon points to get that. I know that Myron Gaines came out with his about, I think it was about 2 or 3 years ago. It was an easy read.
It was
I
like
know the
Why Women
title was
Deserve
kind of,
Less or something like that.
yeah, yeah. And I read that one. It was an easy read. He did make a lot of great points there, but this Rollo Tomasi one I have not read yet.
Yeah, he's good. He's still active. He's on Twitter. He shows up on all their podcasts and everything too. I'd say the best reads is you go on over to at Marchese Methods on Twitter, and then you go under the articles tab. Those are your best reads ever. Those will be the best Shad Alpha reads ever. Okay, and they're totally free. So even then, no, that's just a joke. But
They
I
are
have
good.
I have plenty of articles. If you guys don't see, I wish that they would. I announce them every time, but I wish that the articles interface was also more uh, sort of front running, more prominent, because I get a lot of use out of that. Good read, long too, informative. I've put about 7 to 10,000 words each time, and they're only getting bigger. So
Okay, yeah, okay. I see your
They are good.
website.
well, there's my website.
Seeing it here now.
The articles are on Twitter, but yeah, you can browse my website too. There's a little bit of an about. Not that I mean, anybody can hire me, but you're kind of like a gym guy and everything, and most people hire me at least at the start for like the gym stuff. But feel free to browse, and the articles are on Twitter. So, Wartorn, I hope we didn't we didn't talk so much that you felt like you had to stay silent the whole time.
Nah, it's cool.
Alrighty. Alrighty, I think I'm ready to wrap this one up. I have it recorded, our space from last time. I tried recording it, screen recording it today, but my computer went into sleep mode, so it stopped 10 minutes in. So I don't know how I'm going to do that. I might have to screen record it on the phone to do that, or Wartorn, maybe you can message me and tell me how you did it that other time. So this stuff will all be up and uploaded.
Okay.
Doidle, did you have anything else? Think not. Must have walked away. Alrighty. Well, thanks for joining in, guys. Some good thoughts. Love to hear everyone's experiences and thoughts on everything. These are more frequent now. 2 weeks left of gay fake math assignments for grad school. So once that's done, these will just be probably like a weekly occurrence. And even maybe if something goes viral, I'll probably just pop one open again like this, unprepared, and see how it goes. I keep preparing, but my preparing sort of gives me analysis paralysis. We just talked here. It must have been for like 2 hours. So that was good.
Hey, it's not too bad. At least Chiller and Doyle joined this time.
Yeah, for sure. So
Thanks for having me,
thanks
y'all.
for being on. More to come. All right.
All right, well, gents and ladies, you guys have a great rest of your weekend and an upcoming week. Nice chatting, and keep the spaces coming. Whenever you have some time, I'll definitely join in when I can.
All righty, my friend. Yeah, for sure. Good to have you. Take care, guys.
Take care. Bye.